Okay, let's have this conversation. Let's talk that little thing called talent. I think everyone has it. I may be wrong, but I think everybody has it. Douglas Kruger is a global speaker and author of 6 business books and 5 times South African public speaking champion. And he joins us now on the line. And today we're talking about what it takes to be talented at something, how each of these elements work, and how you can use a formula to your advantage. Douglas, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with the definition. What do you define as talent?
Okay, talent is the ability to take the thing that you love and want to do in life and heighten your own capacity to do it well. So maybe that's a good starting point in terms of defining it. And it can apply to anything, whether we're talking about sales, learning language, how to write, how to speak in public, sports skills. Talent really has a central formula, and it's the same across the board.
Okay, so what is the central formula? And it's the same across the board, irrespective of whether you're a sportsman or you sing or you paint or whatever the case may be.
Okay, it is remarkably simple, but I'm going to add this to the discussion. It's hard to do. So I will give you the 4-part formula, and explaining it is very straightforward, but then, of course, the hard work is in actually doing it.
Okay.
Now, it is as simple as this. I'll give you the 4 parts, and then what we can do is just break them down and go into a bit of detail.
Okay.
The first element you need is yearning, and then input, and then deliberate practice, and time. Now, I'll repeat that very quickly for you if you happen to be taking notes. It's yearning, in other words, desire, plus input, which is the knowledge, the how-to, plus deliberate practice, plus time.
So
now, regardless of what you want to be good at, those 4 elements have to be there, or you simply will not build your own talent or the talent of your staff or children.
Okay. Do you have to be born with it? Because a lot of people get stuck there with the notion that you have to be born with it, or is it something that you can sort of cultivate? Or because some people, I think, discover their talent very late in life. It doesn't mean it was lying dormant and wasn't there, but they have the confidence, perhaps much later in life, to bring it to the fore.
No, you absolutely do not have to be born with it. That is a fallacy. In fact, it is scientifically disprovable. One of the world's leading experts on this particular topic is Carol Dweck, and in her excellent little book called Mindset, she points out that there are 2 basic views on this one. One is incorrect, one is correct. And the incorrect one is the idea that we are born with a set amount of potential, that we have genetic limits. The one that science actually backs up is that we are genetically malleable. In other words, our potential, our talent can actually be trained, coached, and increased. But it relies on parents, our leaders, and ourselves believing that. If we don't actually believe that someone can grow, well, that's a complete full stop right there.
Yeah. Who has to spot it, though? You spoke of parents, you spoke of the society, perhaps school. Who has to spot that talent? Who has to say, is it an outsider who has to say to me, KG, you're talented? Or can I feel something inside me that, man, I think I'm good at this soccer thing. Perhaps I should play it. Who has to spot it?
Well, now that's an interesting question, and it plays into the first part of our 4-part formula for talent, which is yearning. It has to come from the inside, but having said that, it can also be ignited from the outside. So let me explain what I mean by that, because it sounds contradictory. The very first step in becoming good at anything is you have to yearn to be good at it. Now, this is not at all an intellectual thing. This is like, picture a little 4-year-old boy watching a movie and he sees soldiers, and then he runs outside and he wants to play that he's a soldier.
Yes.
It's that visceral, emotional, I want to be like that. And in fact, for my money, I think this is one of the things that a lot of teachers, coaches, and mentors actually get wrong, is they go straight to the how-to information. They have not created the sense of desire to get there. And desire is based on identity. It's who do you want to be in the world? So a lot of the things that we become talented at, it's not that we actually start off by being good at it or have the information. We start with the yearning. We see something that is just awesome, and we think, I want to be like that. Now, that also explains why so many kids believe that they're not good at things like mathematics. They are not taught the yearning. They're not taught the any sort of reason to pursue what is actually quite a difficult thing to pursue. So the yearning always has to come first.
Okay. And then let's talk these tools, because perhaps the yearning is there. You know deep down inside that you can kick a soccer ball in miraculous ways.
Yeah.
What are some of the tools that we all can use then to just bring it out. One of the things you spoke about earlier on is, deliberate practice. But I'm assuming some of the best soccer players in the world didn't just think, I think I can do that, and went outside and kicked a ball. I have a feeling they may have kicked the ball over 1,000 times. They talk of the 10,000 hours that you have to put into any craft. So let's talk tools. If I've recognized that I've got this thing, whatever the thing may be, where to from next?
Right. Okay. So, I mean, you're absolutely dead right. You've got the yearning. You want to be a football player. You want to learn language. You want to learn public speaking, whatever the case may be. Without the next element, which is input, it doesn't matter how much yearning you have. So the yearning has to come first, but then you need the knowledge. You need specific steps on how to do the thing that you want to do. Now, input breaks down into two different forms, and both are powerful, but one is more powerful than the other. So the first form of input is your own self-study. So, for example, go out, you read material on the how-to of the thing that you're pursuing. Now, that's good and it's important, but it's not as effective as personal coaching. So the most effective form of input is when someone who really knows how watches you try to do the thing you're doing and corrects and guides you along as you go. Best case scenario, you want both. So using your football analogy, you want to read the books on how to, but you also need a coach watching you do it and going, no, correct this, try the following.
Okay. So how do you identify the right coach, though, or mentor? Because it could be a mentor, is it not?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Of course, it's going to vary from one industry and one pursuit to the other. You don't necessarily need someone who is the very best at what they do, but you do need someone who understands what makes people the very best at what they do. So you're not necessarily having to seek out, say, the world's leading football player in order to make you better.
Yes.
You merely need someone who can spot what's wrong with an amateur.
Okay.
And of course, as I say, it's going to vary from
because it would be tough to find
pursuit.
Ronaldo. It would be very tough to find Ronaldo.
Oh, it's easy to find him, but it's tricky to afford him.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, he doesn't work for cheeseburgers, so.
So we were rounding off those tools. Sorry to interrupt you. We were rounding off those tools. So I've spotted somebody who will, I suppose, also have the courage to say, no, practice some more.
Yeah, that brings us to number 3. So quick summary, we've got the yearning, we've got the passion, then we've added the knowledge and the how-to. The next thing we need is deliberate practice. Now, you'll notice there's an interesting word there. It's not just practice, it's deliberate practice, and there's a very big difference. So using the world of golf, and I explore this one in a couple of my books, the one on how to position yourself as an expert, we go into detail on this. Using the world of golf, you can play games of golf every Saturday for 10 years and not get any better. In fact, it's entirely possible to get slightly worse over a 10-year period.
In 10 years?
Now, this is the difference. This is the difference. A person like that is doing what we might call practice, but not deliberate practice. So, playing a game of golf is not the same thing as deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is when you break it down into its smallest bits and you focus on each thing and becoming good at it. So it's the difference between a guy who casually goes and plays a game of golf over the course of a Saturday versus Tiger Woods taking a ball and putting it into a bunker. And then what he does is he spends 4 hours practicing how to hit a ball out of a bunker over and over and over.
Got it.
The basic idea is you've got to break it down to its smallest bits and very slowly study and get better at each and every little bit. And then you build it back up again. And that's deliberate practice. It's excruciatingly hard, it's unbelievably boring, and it's how to build talent.
And probably
very frustrating, but the frustration is the point.
Yeah.
The frustration, in fact, psychologically, the frustration is the point. It's the fact that your mind is grappling with it, getting angry with it, trying to figure it out. That's where the deep learning of talent actually takes place.
Yeah. And then we spoke of time. The analogies always put 10,000 hours into your craft. I don't even know who came up with that. But when you when you talk time, and you just made a beautiful example of playing golf for 10 years, for example, and making all of the wrong mistakes and not getting it right. How do you know when you've put in enough time, or how much even is enough?
Well, you genuinely start to see the results. You mentioned the 10,000 hours, and it's a well-known number that was made famous by Malcolm Gladwell initially. And there is debate around whether or not that is 100% correct, but most experts on the topic of human talent seem to largely agree with it. And they'll give different numbers. They'll say it might be 6,000 hours up to 12,000 hours, but it's more or less correct. So we can take that as a given. Now, the interesting thing about that is we're talking about, say, an hour or two of practice every day for about 10 years. Now, when we hear that, I mean, I don't know about you, but I jump back in repulsion thinking about 10 years worth of practice.
10 years is a long time.
But let me throw you a lifeline here.
Yeah.
10 years is a very long time, but let me throw you a lifeline. That means going from 0 hours put in at 0 talent to one of the best in the world to absolute masterclass level from 0.
Absolutely.
Now, in reality, when we actually learn a new skill, and let's take public speaking as an example,
okay.
You don't start with 0 hours of practice. You've got a little bit of, a few hours behind you because
Absolutely.
of some of the basic things you've learned, and so forth.
Absolutely.
So you don't start from an absolute 0, and you also don't need to go to absolute masterclass. You can, in fact, become a national champion at something with, say, 3,000 or 4,000 hours of practice.
Okay.
So that's from starting out to actually winning the SA championships. 3 or 4 years worth of practice, it absolutely can be done.
Yeah, I'm glad, particularly the time part, because we live in a country where a lot of people are encouraged to go the entrepreneurial route, and they expect quick returns, because I suppose our eyes sometimes are our worst enemies, because you see somebody who plays in the same field, you don't know how many hours they've put into the craft, and you think, why can they drive this car and I can't drive this car? So I mean, and when you're an expert, when you're a master, I suppose you play high stakes, and there's high rewards when you play high stakes.
Absolutely, and 2 thoughts on what you've just said. I mean, I dearly believe in the idea of entrepreneurs in South Africa.
Yeah.
All of the stats show that, the world's self-made millionaires are all their own bosses, and they are entrepreneurial in nature, and I really believe we need more of that in South Africa. But yes, starting a business is unbelievably hard work, and we tend not to study the struggle of successful people. We simply look at their end result.
Yes.
So you see the woman driving the Lamborghini, you see the guy living in the mansion, and you go, I want a piece of that.
Yes.
Well, you can have a piece of that, but you have to state the years of struggle that created it. That's the behavior that you need to emulate.
Yeah.
And in terms of entrepreneurs, I always say, the problem is you run out of money before you get there. That's the most common problem for new businesses, for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And the way to plug that gap is knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's about reading, it's about watching YouTube videos and so on. But you've got to plug the knowledge gap quicker than your money runs out. And that's the real trick.
Yeah. Listen, thank you always for your insights. Where do people find you? Where can they find those
Always
books?
a pleasure.
Yeah. Where do people find you?
My website, douglaskruger.co.za, all sorts of free resources, articles for entrepreneurs and so forth. And the books are available in exclusive books. Just ask for Douglas Kruger, whichever one suits you. If you're looking for ones on talent, the books there are either Own Your Industry or Relentlessly Relevant. But just ask for Douglas Kruger, they'll find that section for you.
Thank you for your time. And as I start my 10,000 hours, I appreciate you so much, Douglas. We'll talk again next time.
Stunning.
Thank you.
Ahmed Katrada.